everyone, I'm Bradley. Welcome to my channel, Portly Gentlemen. It is great to have you here today. Today's video is all about a new type of brewing, if you will. I know some die-hard all-grain guys are going to say this isn't brewing, and although it is very different, you will make beer. All right, so this one, if you haven't guessed, is all about More Beer's new flash brewing kits. This is basically a 5-gallon batch of beer in a little box. It's a lovely box. It has some stickers on the outside, instruction about what's going on. Out here, just a little brief about the beer. It's a nice package. It's awesome. It's smart, compact. Have in your home brewery or even in your home. You definitely do not need a brewery to brew one of these or put this kit together. This is a super interesting way to create a beer, in my opinion. This is one of the best of these kind of easier entry-level beer recipe or ingredient kits that you can get. If this is your first time here, you may notice that, I have some of the most sophisticated and highest-end home brewing equipment available today. And having said that, you don't need that to do this. I mean, you may need that to do, okay, so you may not necessarily need that to make beer, but I assure you higher-end equipment does make the process easier and more convenient, and you can do different things just easier. So we won't go there either, but I'm not one to apologize for having the best stuff you can get. So I decided to brew the Citra Session Flash Brew Kit because I'm honestly familiar and quite fond of the all-grain kit. I believe I have a video on it that I will link. Now, I'm not going to do a direct comparison because, as you'll see, that's really not the point, and it's really not necessary. There's a lot of variation in all-grain brewing, whether it's coming from the maltster, whether it's how long you've boiled for. Boil intensity can affect color, flavor, all that stuff, bitterness for sure, and then also mash temperature can just wildly affect it, or it could just be a different batch of malt that doesn't have the same diastatic power. So there's just so many things that could go wrong, or pH, so much stuff can change in individual beer. So I think putting one of these flash brewing kits to an all-grain kit, this really isn't the point. In my opinion, this will never replace all-grain brewing. It's here to get people into the hobby, or to just an addition to. As you will see, this process is super simple. Research it, mash it, boil it, ferment it, drink it, analyze it, share it. Home brewing is good. All right, so what's in the kit itself? Well, as soon as you open it up, you are greeted with a hop bite shot. This is a syringe without a needle, just like a syringe, right? It has 30 IBUs worth of hop bitterness in there, and that's how you get the body of the bitterness. There is also a super fancy ingredient sheet. If you're used to More Beer's kits, it comes with one of the tap handle cutouts. It has instructions that are very well written and concise. Definitely follow these. Do not overthink it. It's really, really easy. You also have 2 packs, that's 2 ounces of Citra cryo hops. The cryo hops are going to help you with that perceived bitterness. Obviously, aroma and flavor are going to be big with these guys. Cryo hops, if you don't know, are different than regular hops. They are literally separated cryogenically, really, really cold. The lupulin, which is that yellow stuff inside of the hop cone, that's basically able to extract a higher amount of that out. So this is more flavorful, more essential hop essence in this versus other stuff and less vegetal material, which is going to help later on, as you will see. Also included is a pack of flash yeast. This yeast is really special and pretty cool. It has a pretty wide temperature fermentation range, everything from common ale temp all the way up to very, very warm, think 85 degrees or so, maybe 90. And the real kind of trick here is it drops that pH down really quickly. That way it's less of a happy, hospitable environment for bugs to live in. Lower the pH, less hospitable it's going to be. And then last but not least in this kit is a full pack of pre-boiled dried malt extract. Now, all of these kits, for the most part, are going to be a bespoke blend of these pre-boiled dry malt extracts, recipes created to make sure that they get to that right flavor profile as close as you can with this type of brewing. So that's all that's in the kit. It's that simple. So the first step to brewing is to choose a fermenter. I'm fermenting in the Brewtools Miniuni Plus. You could use many other options. You don't have to use one of these, but if you have one, it does obviously work great. A downside for us is we can't see what's going on because it's made of very robust stainless steel. So first step is to sanitize your equipment. Again, I'm using a more advanced sanitization process. I'm using my CIP ball and a brewery pump, as well as a low foaming sanitizer for about 30 minutes, letting that spin so I know it's fully sanitized and clean. You could do this with Star San and shake it, and it might be simpler, but for me, this is just how I work, and it just makes sense on this setup the way I'm doing it. But there's lots of ways to do it, but just use a really good sanitizer. Soap and water will not do the job. And then it's super simple. It's insane how simple this is. Literally, take in 2 gallons of water. Now, it is important to note that you really should be using distilled water or reverse osmosis water if you can. Spring water will work. Tap water, I would let it gas off overnight. Don't use any sort of tablets or anything to try and neutralize the chlorine, because you're not going to boil this. So it's not going to work properly. Also, don't try and do any sort of water modifications. Don't add salts, minerals, etc. to your water with dried malt extract. This stuff is spray dried malt extract. It's not a great idea. It's already been boiled, so it's not advised. Don't overthink it. Just think simple, and you're going to have a really good result. After you have that 2 gallons of water in there initially, it's really simple. You could have tried to heat the water if you want to ferment a little warmer. I used a heating belt to get my miniuni plus up to temperature. But again, keeping this as simple as it can. If you have a means to heat it, or just let it heat naturally, fermentation is exothermic. It will create some heat as it ferments, I assure you. Next up, start adding in your ingredients. So I squeeze in the hot bite shop. Just make sure it's all been sanitized. Spray down your scissors, everything. Make sure it's good and sanitized. I sprayed that with sanitizer, squeezed in the hot bite shot. I added in the 2 packs of the Citra cryo hops. And then I believe I added in here, dumped in the yeast next for whatever reason. I didn't want to add the yeast last. It doesn't really matter. And then it says to dump in all of that dried malt extract. Now this stuff is kind of messy. It's a very fine powder. So just make sure you dump it in as carefully as you can. It's not a big deal. Just make sure everything is as sanitary as possible throughout this entire process. And then last but not least, add in a further 3 gallons of water, and that's it. Literally, do nothing else but close your fermenter and forget about it for a few days. It's that simple. I did drop in a floating hydrometer so I could monitor fermentation. Now, because it's not mixed or stirred, and we don't want to stir, it's an easy way to add bugs into the process and create issues. Having said that, I didn't stir, and it fermented out really nicely, as we're going to get to here in just a moment. So cap the fermenter, set your temperature. Now I fermented mine at 85 degrees. You could ferment a little warmer, you could ferment cooler. I had it here on the glycol system and temp controlled it. And this was done fermenting in honestly 3 days, but maybe a little bit quicker. It stopped at around 007, I think. So it fermented out pretty dry. Again, I was a little blown away by how quick this happened. Fermentation went really, really quickly. Then I went ahead and cold crashed it. I didn't bother with any kind of fining. I just wanted to see what the beer would do on its own and see how it conditions so I can better understand it. So I cold crashed it for a further 3 or 4 days before I packaged. And when I did package it, I used the Brewtools filter. Now, you don't necessarily need to, but I just, I think it looks a little bit cooler on YouTube. If this had a traditional dry hop in it, you would definitely want to filter. But if you do that, that is going to affect your yield, as a traditional, pellet hop will, all that plant material will absorb more of your wort or beer, so you'll have greater losses. In this kit, you can see, I used the Brewtools silicone dip tube, and I didn't dump anything off the bottom because I got it out of the fermenter so quickly. But basically everything came out. There was minimal hop material in the filters. I used the biggest one and the smallest filter, and it obviously wasn't necessary, but just want to show you guys what it looks like and what the process was. I put it into a keg. I let it sit in the keg for another couple of days. I immediately started drinking on it, and it's now time to drink more of it. So let's get a beer. All right, so here we are. Here is the finished beer, and this is indeed beer. The color is just, it's really light and crispy. It is a little bit turbid. It has gotten a little bit less turbid in the last couple of days. Again, I'm not using floating dip tube in the keg, so this is what it is. The color isn't going to affect flavor, maybe what you perceive. But on the nose, you get intense Citra hop. It has a good little head that's relatively persistent. Not as persistent as an all-grain head, I would say, but it's definitely there. but just the aroma and everything, right on the money. It smells quite appetizing on a warm day like today. Oh man. So first, so it's refreshing. I might have it a little bit undercarbonated, but again, that's on me. It is not the kit by any means. But think, just super refreshing. That Citra, you can't miss it. The body on these is gonna be a little bit less mouthfeel, a little bit lacking versus all grain. It's just, it's part of the deal, and it's okay. You know, it's just not the same body, so it kind of lets you down there. But as far as a drinkable beer, like I've paid for worse. I've honestly made worse before, and it's really something. I was so blown away by this. This surpassed my expectations. If you've seen a video I did a few weeks ago about another product that made really poor beer, this is really, really good in comparison. And honestly, in comparison to other beers that are available, it's just crispy. Something about the lightness in this style, in this beer, that for me, it is refreshing. These will sneak up on you. Trust me, I know. This keg will not last. It is absolutely crushable. Again, different than an all grain beer. Not bad different, but different. So if you Pepsi challenged it, all grain's gonna have the real body. But if this is your first time ever brewing, and again, you could bottle condition these. More Beer sells flip-top bottles that are reusable, carbonation drops. You drop those in there, some sugar, another couple weeks you get a beer. I would definitely consider moving quickly away from that personally and going to some sort of a pressurizable tank anytime you can ferment under pressure, which I probably omitted that I did this around 5 PSI, because I think that 5 PSI is just, it's not a ton of pressure, but it is enough to make sure that nothing oxidizes, nothing gets in, nothing gets out. Basically, I think of pressure fermentation as keeping my beer safe, and we all love safe beer. So I'm gonna drink this happily. I think, man, the whole brewing process with a camera and lights and everything, once that was rolling, I spent less than 10 minutes doing this. I went really quickly. I was honestly in a hurry, and you know, this was drinkable with my setup by 3 days guaranteed. 4 days probably even better, and now going on 8 days old, right now 9 days old. It's really starting to condition. I expect this to get a little bit tastier as time goes on, and then eventually, nothing lasts forever, right? All beer does go bad, so you need to drink it. The price on these kits, it's not bad. I believe they're about 40 bucks, 44 bucks. I think that comes out to for a 5-gallon batch, and my yield was really close to 5 gallons. I may have put a little bit more than 5 gallons in, but maybe like another pint, 16 ounces, just so I didn't have any perceivable losses really. So, you know, that is what it is, but my yield was good. So I think it comes down to about $1 a pint, which is cost effective. We're not home brewing because it's cost effective, but you know, the cost per beer is something to consider, I think, in this type of brewing when you're comparing to other products on the market. You know, how much does the actual kit, you know, cost per beer? Like I said, to me, it's a useful metric for this type of brewing. Moving forward, I'll be doing lots of experimentation with this and really seeing how far this goes. To me, it's super interesting and it's awesome. If this is your first time trying it, just remember, sanitize, sanitize, sanitize. Watch some of my videos, watch some other people's videos on basics. And you don't need hot side technique, you need cold side technique to be able to do this effectively. But once you get that down, this is really simple. Don't overthink it. You don't have to spend all the money in the world, although a good Firmzilla, like an all-rounder, would be nice, or a Miniuni Plus with a full glycol setup also really does the job quite well. But you will be there and you will have an absolutely, you know, amazing first beer. If you've ever, your first beer, this is far better than my first beer ever was. I don't know what else I could say that I think this is really good, and it's awesome that More Beer has kind of come out with this and put this together and done it right, because so many have tried and they just missed the mark. This one's a bullseye in my world.